And now it's that time in the Ron Johnson Show for the Daily Three. That's 3 questions, 3 minutes. And of course, I wore number 3 in college. So I love the number 3. But Sam, take it away.
NBA talk to start it out. Wolves have 3 games left, all at home. They are still chasing the Nuggets and Jazz for that number 6 seed. They have had a heck of a time getting there, and it's looking more and more like they're going to be the 7. So if the play-in tournament started today, they would play Los Angeles Clippers, who just got Paul George back. Do the Clippers scare you, Ron?
Well, this is the thing, basketball. Everybody scares me in basketball. Football, you can kind of know who you're going to dominate. You know, if you're playing the Lions in the playoffs, you probably have an idea that you're going to beat the Lions. If you're playing the Dolphins in the playoffs, you probably know you're going to beat the Dolphins. But in the playoffs in basketball, it's so different. Like, it does not matter what the season looked like. In the NBA, I mean, of course, the top is going to knock off the lower. So we know the Suns are going to get through this. We know the Heat are going to get through it pretty much. But the big equalizer in basketball is the three-pointer. So getting Paul George back, we know a slasher, a scorer, a guy that can put up, 15 in 5 minutes. That's what's scary, is we know that if he gets hot, he can get going. And Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, this is a new venture for them in the playoffs. This is new territory now. No, not say being solidified. Technically, they would have been solidified with the 7th seed right now, but now with this new play-in, having to play the 8th seed just to make sure you get your 7th seed. If you lose there, then you got to play the winner of the 9-10 seed. And so if that ends up being the Spurs, that's another scary one, because it's like shooting free throws in a close game. And you're down 2, you shoot a three-pointer and you get fouled. You make the first one, you're tied up. You miss the second one, you make the first one, you're down 1. You miss the second one and you're still down 1. Now it gets tight because you're like, I have to make this to tie this game up. If I miss it, we probably have to foul, blah, blah, blah. And so the moment gets big. Your palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on the floor, mom spaghetti, Eminem. But if you think about that, that's where the play-in gets scary, because if you lose, now it's that second or third free throw. You've already missed one. It's that third free throw to try to make sure you're in it, because now if you lose again, you're out. You went from the 7th seed to sitting on the couch, going to Cancun, preparing your offseason in Vegas. And that's where you don't want to be. You want to win that Clippers game. You want to win it handedly. You don't want to have any question marks going to the playoffs and force the Clippers down to have some pressure in that 8th seed, because then there's a chance they could lose to the winner of the 9 or 10. A lot of people seem to think it's the Spurs. I don't think the Spurs are what they used to be anymore. Pop's still there, but it's just not the same. They don't have the Tim Duncans. They don't have the Manu Ginobili's. They don't have the Tony Park. Like, it's not the same team. And so, but the Spurs still have Pop, and that's the key, is like in the playoffs, he can put some stuff together to get some points on the board. So that's my thought. I am scared of the Clippers, but only for the simple fact of it's about who can dominate and score.
The Clippers went to Milwaukee and hung 153 points a couple games ago. That's enough to scare me right there. Next topic, Pro Football Focus released their newest mock draft. They have the Vikings taking Washington cornerback Trent McDuffie at number 12. Trent McDuffie. It's not Sauce. I know you love Sauce. Do you like that prospect?
So this is the thing about cornerbacks in college. I think I've never been a fan of cornerbacks. I was a receiver. I grew up with a cornerback. My dad, 2-time Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I grew up with a cornerback. So I grew up hating them because, having Mel Blount as a godfather, my dad played corner for the Steelers. Just listening to these guys' stories all the time about how they used to beat up receivers, blah, blah. So when you think about cornerbacks, it's about the scheme. And that's where I'm never going to put my stamp on a guy. I mean, Sauce, I think he's a generational type corner. He's a kid that's long, can play anywhere. I also, when you look at Elam Kair, kid out of Florida, another long kid. You look at a kid that you can get in the later rounds out of Washington State, another long 6'1" corner. But with McDuffie, again, anybody after that, like I like I still like Stingley. I'm nervous. I don't know. This is the time of the year where I get nervous about every draft talk. I mean, they could be talking about quarterback right now and Malik Willis. And I'm going to be nervous about that. Like right now, I get nervous. I don't really settle in until probably right up until the draft, because we do a draft show for Vikings.com. And, that's when I sit back and I really just take my time and understand what the situation is going to be, who's going to be the next guy picked, what's all entail in this. And so when I think about that pick for the Vikings, I don't like it. Like I think having Patrick Peterson, no matter who you draft, I think he's going to help. That was the thing with Cameron Dantzler and Gladney. I think if you had Patrick Peterson, if you rewind the clock, you pick up Patrick Peterson early through some trade, you draft Gladney, you draft Dantzler. I think their NFL starts take a different trajectory. I think they have a true mentor. Off the field, I don't know. I don't know if Patrick Peterson's pouring into these guys off the field about what they should and shouldn't do, but on the field, I think the help is there. I think that it protects them from Zimmer, because Zimmer is really tough on corners. We saw what Xavier Rhodes went through mentally, and then how he bounced back and became who he is. But Zimmer's tough. He was tough, and so I think Patrick Peterson, he's going to be good for whatever corners they bring in. I'm not afraid now of packaging that 12 and then trying to go get a later first this year and a first next year. Like that's the other key. Partnering 2 first-round picks next year, because you look at the draft next year, the quarterbacks that could potentially be in the draft next year. I do like that partnering of the pick to get more picks and get more equity for next season, because there are some later round corners you can get.
If someone jumped up to 12 and took that pick and grabbed Malik Willis and he went on to be a star, and that would be tough to swallow. I will say that.
That'd be real tough. That'd be a tough one.
Yeah. Yeah. Moving on. Bobby Wagner signed a 5-year, $50 million deal with the Rams. We're wondering where the Rams getting all this money, but a closer look at the contract revealed he's only making $10 million of that guaranteed, and they can basically get out after the first year. Why this is interesting, Ron, Bobby Wagner represented himself. He was his own agent. You're a former football player. I'm curious what your take is. Should players represent themselves in these big, high-level contract negotiations?
Well, 3% of that amount of money is a lot to hand over to a guy. So I understand that, especially when you're a veteran and you've known it. You've had 2 or 3 contract negotiations. The tough thing about negotiating money, and here's the tough thing, and I deal with it in this business. When you know your value and you tell somebody your value and what you want to be employed by them, having a buffer or a person that can be blunt and also receive blunt information without having you to hear it, I think that's key mentally. It can be demoralizing sometimes for a guy to sit up there and say, I'm worth 5, and they're like, man, you're worth 1. But for an agent to do it, you don't see that back and forth. You don't see the angst. You don't see the second guessing of I don't know if you're worth that. I think the $10 million guarantee, it has to be some other stuff in there, the language in there we're not seeing. I hope. And so this is the thing. Agents one thing, lawyers another. I'm pretty sure he has a contract lawyer, and that's what a lot of people do, because then you pay him hourly. You pay a contract lawyer hourly, just like another lawyer, which I know he has. And so that's what Bobby Wagner is doing. He's going to get a contract lawyer to look over the contract before he signs it, make sure all the language is correct, make sure everything he wanted is conveyed, and make sure everything the team is asking of him is in there. Whether it's like, you need to do 80% of your workouts to get this bonus. You need to, play in 80% of the defensive snaps to get this bonus. If we make the playoffs, you get another bonus. If we make the Super Bowl, you get another bonus. If we win the Super Bowl. So all of that stuff is what Bobby Wagner's contract lawyer probably looked over for him. And he, instead of paying this guy, 3% of $10 million, which is $300,000 to just hand over, you can say, hey man, like, what's your hourly rate? Guys, like, I'm $1,000 an hour. Perfect. Takes a dude 3-4 hours. You just paid him $4 to $5 grand versus $300 grand. And so I think that's where it gets crazy, and people just assume it's not the lawyer thing, because people go with the lawyer thing where a person that represents himself in court is a fool, or whatever. The lawyer that has himself as a client is representing a fool. That's not the same thing here. This is a guy that knows his worth and knows he wants to get out of the team. So I'm with it. If you can save it, I'm cheap. So if you can save money, I'm all for it.
I just want to know if he got his signing bonus in Bitcoin. That's the other trendy thing that players are doing.
Not.
It's all about Bitcoin.
Yeah, Bitcoin's cheaper.
I get it. Now.
It is. I get it as it goes down. You have to get at the right time. And then you have to hope Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos decide to accept Bitcoin as payment. It's coming. I know it's coming. And so it's a long play. You have to have money to be able to sit your money in there and just wait for one of these chains and these wallets to be able to be used on the Amazon market. I think it's coming.
All right, bonus question. I want your knee-jerk reaction. We had the Final Four, Masters, playoffs in the NHL, NBA coming up. Is April the best sports month?
I think it's a lot stuff. It's quality over quantity. The quality of the sports during April, you do get a nice chunk of March Madness. The beef of the March Madness, not the potatoes and the vegetables, but you get the actual meat. You get the draft coming up. You get all these off-season acquisitions. You got the wild playoff run. You got the NBA playoffs. So yeah, I see that. I think it's up there. I definitely think college football and NFL football live in serious times is better than anything else. I like December. When you think about bowl games, national championship, you think about the NFL playoff push in December. You got Christmas. I know that's not a sport. Santa's not doing it, but I do like December as well.
Yeah, I'm an October guy. I think you need to have real football being played, and I like the World Series tossed in there too. You got hockey and basketball on the horizon, so I'm more of a fall sports guy. But I still love me some NBA playoffs.